Legends game coming your way, this time with Amumu in the Jungle. You may have guessed from the title, but anyway, this is a post-game commentary. After the dust has settled, I went ahead and came back to try to record the game with actual foresight included. Now, unfortunately for this game, the reason why I'm not providing live commentary is that I was busy trying to coordinate something while playing, which is not always that good, and the early game is going to suffer as a result. The good news is you'll get to see things kick into high gear late game when I'm trying to speed up the game in order to go about my business. Now, right there is Fizz. He's probably one of the hidden OP characters of the current patch. Some of the items have been extremely generous to him, primarily in giving him cooldown, because a lot of Fizzes that I've ever played against will build both Zonias and Abyssal. That way they can deal more damage and have ways to avoid punishment. And with the CDR tacked onto those, and you figure he can go for a Lich Bane, it's pretty good on him. That's 30% CDR right there, which means more ults and basically more playful tricksters to evade. As such, you're going to see Fizz do very, very well in this game. It's also going to help that he's up against Brand, who is pretty immobile and doesn't really have a way to get out of the fish once it's been launched, but that's his problem, not mine. So right here you can see my masteries. I'm a little torn on which one I want to go because there is some merit to going for Strength of the Ages, but Deathfire Touch can also be extremely helpful. And ultimately I settle on this page going for the Deathfire Here we go. So I want to take the points out of the Cutting Tree and put them into Resolve, so I'm tankier. I also want to get the Summoner Spell CD reduction, that way I can flash ult into people just in case I can't Bandage Toss for one reason or another. But if you're wondering why Deathfire Touch, your tiers will keep applying that pretty much every second or so. I forgot how often it ticks exactly. And it also will proc off of Curse of the Sad Mummy. So you have two big AoE moves that can apply it and just gradually burn the enemy down. I plan on going for my usual Amumu build here since I want a Rylai's Crystal Scepter for Hecarim. If you're not aware, Hecarim gets AD based off of his movement speed, so being able to slow him will actually weaken him as a result. And Rylai's just going to help set up the Fizz hits, maybe a Taric stun. It's just a utility thing that plays into the strengths of the team. Of course, Frozen Heart is going to be a must because we're up against both a Vayne and a Fiora. I need to deal with their auto attacks as best as possible. I guess Hecarim does he should weave in auto attacks between his Qs. So it will come into play there, just not as much. And you can see how fast that loading screen was. So on the Mummy, I strongly recommend going for the Talisman, and it doesn't really matter which potion item you go for because Amumu has a pretty safe and speedy clear. You could argue the reason why it's so safe is because it's so speedy, but that's not an issue. But if you're not familiar with why you want the Talisman, Amumu does have mana problems early, so getting that does alleviate it. You will get more health back since Amumu is an AoE clear, and then it just increases the damage on your AoE clear because it leaves a lingering burn on targets. You will be auto-attacking, don't get me wrong, because it does speed up your clear and everything. It's just you're not going to swing fast enough to really get anything out of the lifesteal from the machete. Well, not fast enough or hard enough, to be completely honest. And I don't remember, but I think I went for Oppressor as one of my masteries, and the reason for that being is just because Amumu packs so much CC, and then it should apply off of the Rylai's, so I will have the capacity to melt tanks this game. Amumu does that pretty well on his own, it's just I'm going to be much better than average anyway. Anyway, if you're not aware of how Amumu works, I can talk about that while the clear starts. I guess that would be one incentive to the post-game commentaries. Passive is Curse Touch. Whenever you auto-attack something, you take out something like 10 to 15 MR, I forgot which one it is, for a period of something like 3 seconds. So you do want to auto-attack when you're clearing because it amplifies your damage. You'll notice right there I did an auto-attack before popping my E. Your Q is Bandage Toss. It's a linear skill shot. When you hit the enemy, you'll stun them for something like 1 second, and then you reel yourself into them. Your W is Despair. It's a toggle type move. I have it activated right here, where Amumu will cry and deal % HP damage to everything around him. There is a small amount of flat damage applied also, but it really is a small amount. You have to pay mana per second to use it, and that's part of the reason why Amumu has some mana problems, I'm afraid. Your E is Tantrum. It's so good at clearing that chicken camp, and you'll see what I mean after I get the Scuttle Crab. In case you're wondering why I want the Skull Crab, it's just for life, as well as a little bit of vision. I don't know how well Hecarim can do the dragon. I want to assume not very well, but... The other thing is, if you take this, you don't have to worry about Hecarim speeding into the bot lane to potentially get an early kill. He can take that at... well, he's on the wrong side of the jungle, because he needs either his E or the Golem buff to clear that. By the way, Tantrum is an AoE move. You'll see me use it right there. Damages everything around Amumu. It has a passive effect where it blocks a small amount of flat damage, something like 2 per rank, capping out at around 10. And it also has a passive effect of every time Amumu gets attacked. I don't know if it's exclusive to auto attacks or if it also applies to abilities as well. The cooldown on Tantrum will be reduced by half a second. So if you think about the chicken camp, you're going to get hit 4 times per second. And if each of those is a half-second reduction, that means you're going to get 2 seconds off of your Tantrum every time you get hit. And in case you're wondering, I strongly recommend maxing Tantrum first, just to get the damage reduction. It helps against auto attackers. The other part is, I believe the cooldown goes down with rank, but I'm not totally sure on that. It's just, you have the most uptime for this, and it does a nice chunk of damage relative to the cost. Like, your highest damaging move is actually going to be your W, it's just you don't have the mana to sustain it, I'm afraid. So I probably could have went for the Scuttle Crab just to try to sustain a bit and then taken the Gromp. It's just... like I said, I was multitasking while doing this, and my early game is going to suffer as a result. But fear not, the Mummy is a force to be reckoned with as the game progresses. One other thing I can mention before I go into the ult is, in case you're wondering about top lane, I really don't want to gank that. Teemo has extremely low potential when it comes to trying to get kills. So trying to gank for him is a bit of a waste of time, especially for Fiora, who can actually Q out of the way of my Bandage Toss. By the way, your ult is Curse the Sad Mummy. It has a massive cooldown, but it's one of the highest impact moves in the game. For those that are new to the game, new meaning they've started playing within the past 3 years or so, they missed the era of Season 2 where Amumu was Pickerman. He seriously was that hotly contested. And Curse of the Sad Mummy is primarily why. So in case you're wondering, it's kind of like Tantrum in that it works on everyone around you, but the thing is, it applies a root, so it pretty much stops the enemy cold. Right here is when I'm going to die, because I thought I had more damage on Hecarim than I actually did, but he did have red buff, so yeah. Unfortunately for him, he's... to be completely honest, I don't know what he is going for in reality. He does go for the Warrior enchantment, but if you've seen my Hecarim video, you know I'm a believer in Runic Echoes on Hecarim.
Let's find some friends.
It just gives him everything he needs. Much better than Warrior. So right here I was reading about Bastion. I didn't know how exactly it worked, because I'm not really... Okay, to be completely honest, I haven't played bot lane in... let's see, it's May, so I want to say November or October, maybe? And as a result, I don't really follow any updates there taking place in the bot lane. I did have a bit of an impression on what Terra can do, because you do see me play against one in my Scion game, but he's not a big issue for me. So right here, had Fizz roamed, that would have easily been a dead brand, but the good news is I still managed to get quite a bit of mana out of him. You may look at his mana bar and see that's not really that empty, but his spells are pretty expensive, and basically if Fizz can dodge a few shots, Brand will go pretty quickly. I'm trying to think, I believe there's only one Brand game on the channel, and I'm just not a fan of the champion before rework or even now. He can do some nasty things now, but still not a fan of him. Now, I'm okay with going for the red buff right here because it does apply health regen once I do have it dead. The only thing I have to worry about though is mana, because if you look, I'm pretty much out. With my completed actual jungle item, the blade that I'm going to use, I do have 180% mana regen. It's just Amumu's is not really that impressive, I'm afraid. So right there I sorted everything according to matchup. And I could have gone for the Cinder to just try to speed things up even more, but like I said, Amumu's an AoE clear. He can plow through the jungle very quickly on his own. And since the Cinderhulk has been buffed, he's going to be even faster than before. Now, I know some people build Runic Echoes on Amumu, and I can kind of see the argument for that. The thing is, you don't get the mana regen on that when you are fighting an enemy champion, if you're trying to gank, stuff like that. So it will keep you kind of topped off in the jungle, but as long as you're not going too crazy with your W, you really shouldn't be going too low in the first place. Especially when you factor in you have to walk from place to place, that little bit of downtime is going to be enough for you to regen some of your mana back. So you see right here I'm down to half. And unfortunately you do have problems in the river because you don't have your mana regen here. You can see this is the first Scuttle Crowd to be taken based on how quickly it went down. And eventually I probably will need to give this to Fizz, it's just in the meantime I'm going to monopolize it. The main reason why I actually want this is for CDR purposes, that way I can use my ult more often. Unfortunately, with as much impact as Amumu's ult does pack, it has a massive cooldown. I don't remember if it's like 2.5 minutes or just 2 early on, but it's a lot. To make things worse, Amumu is one of the guys who has been left out of the whole standardization process. So right here I have to flash. Right there, Hecarim knocked me back into the tower for the kill. And Fizz could have gotten that if he moved a little bit more quickly, but it's going to take a while for him to get off the ground, I'm afraid. So if you're wondering what I mean by Amumu has been left out of the whole standardization thing, pay attention to the mana cost on my ult as it ranks up. Right now it's at 100, but it's going to be 150 at rank 2 and 200 at rank 3. Riot tried to reduce the costs of all the ults for mana users down to 100 regardless of who it is, with the exception of certain people like Swain and Maokai, and there are a couple other ones who have toggle ults. Unfortunately, Mumu is not one of the lucky ones, and as such he does suffer to a certain degree. So right there, in case you didn't notice, Fiora teleported down. As such, that first dragon can pretty much go to them uncontested. We have nothing left to actually stop them. To make things worse, Teemo is doing so poorly he can't even take advantage of Fiora being out of lane, I'm afraid. Good news is, though, they passed on the dragon for some reason. Had they gone for the Earth Dragon, it would have been a lot worse for us because they would have had true damage for all the following fights, but they didn't. I'm not sure if Hecarim just didn't know about the new dragons or what, but that should have been theirs. I might have been able to suicide steal it, but that would have set me back even further, which is not ideal. meantime, while I wait for the lanes to somewhat reset, I decided to just keep farming. That way I'll still have gold and EXP to remain relevant, even if I can't directly impact the flow of the lanes.
Find some friends.
It's not as exciting, I'm afraid, but if you want to stay relevant in the jungle, you really do need to do it from time to time. Now, Amumu is one of the worst takers of the Rift Herald, in case you're wondering. So, I'm just going to leave that alone. It's not for me, I'm afraid. To make things worse, once you actually do have it, you actually can't really take advantage of it. So right here you can see Fiora's roaming down. Pretty much every single one of them manages to get to me before my team even acknowledges my existence here. Teemo decides to stroll in, but he's just way too late.
Has been slain. Ally has been slain.
And right there you can see how little influence the blind actually does have on Teemo. So right here I'm grabbing the Glacial Shroud for more CDR. Unfortunately, with the way I have Amumu set up, I'm not going to have any innate CDR. Pretty much the only stuff I'm going to get are from what I build. So the Frozen Heart is going to be worth 20. You may have noticed it has a new icon and everything. The Abyssal Scepter is going to have 10%. And let's see, Rylai's has 0, Leandri's has 0, Cinderhulk has 0. So unless I went for CDR boots, I'd be capped at 30. But you can, I just say, choose your boots based on who you're fighting against. Well, you can see how fast Moo melts these camps. All the small ones are dead already. Meanwhile, the big one is cooking. So right here I'm trying to ping Fizz saying, hey, this time actually move. And you can see that since he reacts, we actually do get an easy kill on Brand. Sure, Brand may have done quite a bit of damage to me, but it's not like it's something I can't heal. In case you didn't notice, I also have the red buff, so if you look at my health regen, I'm pretty decent. Fortunately, that will go away once I start fighting the jungle creep. Do I have the red buff?
Come play with me.
Yeah, I do. It's a little hard to see on my screen with the Sunfire cape, but I thought I did since I went from there to him. But yeah, one of the reasons why I'm not actually eager to turn this over to Fizz is that he, with his past gank, he finally started to move on his own.
Aww.
Now, I don't have my ult for this Fiora gank. Unfortunately, I also don't know if Teemo has been maxing his blind or what. Right there, she gets a ton of healing from her ult. And the problem is we did not pop her Hex Drinker. So right here I tried to steer her into the Teemo Shroom, which was successful, but the Hex Drinker is going to pop, as you can see there, and as a result she lives. That is pretty much why I give up on ganking Teemo and why I wasn't too eager to do it in the first place. So right here I grab the Amp Tome and the Ruby Crystal. I'm actually going for Rylai's next. It's just those two components are part of the Rylai's as well as the Leandries. I didn't have enough for the needlessly large rod, so I had to improvise. I could have gone for a full Giant's Belt, but I wanted a little bit of AP so that my stuff will start to hurt. I don't remember offhand, but I think the Q has a really high AP ratio, so you actually will hurt the enemy if you can land it. Only problem is, if you don't have teammates to follow up, it really doesn't matter what you do. So at this point, Fizz is able to stand alone against Brand. I just have to worry about the other lanes, and by that I really mean the bot lane. The incentive I have to ganking the mid is just I can get an easy assist off of Brand. And it's my turn to bait in Echo. So yes, my ult to get wasted, and right there you can see my mana cost has gone up for putting another point into the ult. And right there is the Taric ult for invincibility. And even though I missed the Bandage Toss, I can still show up here to help tank, supply slows. And despite getting shot up, we should be able to actually get the dragon off of this. Thing is, since Amumu sucks at taking Rift Herald, you really don't want to take the dragon alone either. Once I have some help, it's an easy ordeal. Now, unfortunately, since Amumu sucks at sieging, this Earth Dragon really doesn't help him, and it's only Earth Dragons that spawn in this game. So I won't be able to show off how he can do a lot more with his, with the, God, I forgot what the Ocean Drake. What the sustain from the Ocean Drake gives you can do. Basically, you're able to keep your tiers going much longer. And it also does give you health. Right there, we layered our CC, Dazzle into Bandage Toss, the pony was locked down, and then Caitlyn got the kill to help secure her some leverage in the bot lane. So on this back, I went ahead and got the Giant's Belt. My other option could have been to sell my potions for the needlessly large rod. It's just, for the time being, I want to hold on to those so that I can get the maximum efficiency out of them. Should also mention, if you ever want to take the golems, they're really only optimal to take if you're coming in from the bottom side of the jungle or if you're going to recall afterwards, because they're in a bit of an unusual spot. It's not as bad for junglers that can hop that wall, such as through a Bandage Toss, a Kha'Zix Leap, stuff like that. But otherwise, for the guys I usually play, like Nocturne and Skarner, who actually have to walk around, you really only want to get those on your way in. Otherwise, it just takes more time than it's worth. So, my ult is up. Combining Curse of the Sad Mummy with the box, we get a kill on Fiora. Now, I don't really know what Hecarim was thinking there. If I actually had my Bandage Toss up, we could have had some fun, but don't be afraid. Now, those two should have backed out, I'd recommend. Brand may have given them some false hope, but we have Caitlyn, who has the longest range in the game. I can counter-initiate anything they throw at us. Teemo can harass them a bit with his blind. And on my screen, it does look like Taric has his ult up, so even if they... Like, if we really wanted to, we could tower dive with the Taric ult. Had we actually had the coordination, we should have been able to do that, but we didn't. In the end, Brand still dies though, so no big deal.
An enemy has been slain.
And like I said, Fiora is not worth my time.
Destroyed a turret.
Instead, I can go ahead and clear out this pink ward from earlier. I was hoping she'd initiate on me and then we could turn and get her. Now, keep in mind we are using that Earth Dragon buff we got just a little while ago on this tower, since it's going to deal additional like 10 damage per auto attack. It may not seem like a lot, but if all of us are shooting at it, here's what I mean by with Taric, we can do some nasty tower dives. We could have actually done that on the outer tower had we had the coordination, but we just didn't. So anyway, 10 damage from 5 different sources means 50 damage per auto. If you can do one auto attack on everyone per second, you can actually rack up some damage on the tower. So in case you didn't see what happened to the pony right there, Fizz's fish, I don't know if it actually amplifies magic damage for everyone or just himself, but in the event it's everyone, that means all the damage I did to him would actually be improved. To make things worse, while the fish was getting ready to jump out at him, I used my Bandage Toss to actually hold him in place to try to keep his position favorable for Fizz to go in and finish the job. So I think right around here is when I actually started focusing on the game, since I was trying to get through it more quickly. Unfortunately, you can see there's still like 15 minutes left to it. And for the last 5 minutes I will be getting hassled to speed up, but oh well. So anyway, I have the Rylai's, I have the Merc treads, that way I can get out of a Brand stun, a Vein Condemn, I guess technically a Fiora stun too, or Hecarim Fear. They all have something to kind of mess with me, and that's why I felt Merc treads were a better pickup here than Lucid boots, even though Lucid would be nice for the CDR as well as just to let me flash more often. So right there was Hecarim's flash. Interestingly enough, he is not packing Ghost. Ghost is supposed to be getting buffed recently, which will be great news for Hecarim, and a couple other guys who use it, such as Skarner, and I guess even Udyr if they're into him that way. I should look into getting a Skarner game once that Ghost buff goes through. Should also mention I am looking at starting Ranked relatively soon, so there will be that also. Downside to Ranked is I will be using a smaller champion pool than normal, so you won't see as much variety, and unfortunately until that Blood Razor gets buffed, Nocturne is benched. Pretty much the only person who can make use of the Blood Razor in its current form is Kindred. So I have to flash the wall in order to get in, since Thresh moved away from my Bandage Toss. And you can see right there, Hecarim barely beat me to the smite. Unfortunately, he does have a Sheen at this point, so he's able to do a bigger initial burst to the dragon than I can, since I have more damage over time. And as such, it's easier for him to get it. Thing is, it did cost him his life, though, so there is that. And the other thing is we also just traded an Earth Dragon for 4 of their lives. So I can kind of live with that, can't you? Unfortunately, when I start this, you can see that they're coming around. There was no way for me to get away from Fiora, so my last action was to actually throw my Bandage Toss at her to lower her Banshee so Fizz can actually do something to her. In the end, it didn't work, but the important thing is I still set up some potential with my final act. Now, since Fiora was the one who killed me last, I figure I'm going to finish the Frozen Heart so she has a little trouble auto-attacking around me. It'll still give me the 10% CDR that going towards the Abyssal right there would have given, so it doesn't really matter, it's just I'm feeling more threatened by their auto-attackers rather than their casters.
Okay. Right
now I'm trying to see the timer on that Teemo shroom, because I don't remember if they've been buffed yet to last longer.
Where are we going?
For most of the duration of the game, Teemo's shrooms used to have a 10-minute duration. Recently, they changed it down to 5, and I think they wanted to buff it back up to 7 because his shrooms were just way too low impact with a 5-minute timer.
Let's find some friends.
At one time, they actually had a 0.8 AP ratio, but now they're at something like 0.4, so
An ally has been
Teemo's
slain.
ult is definitely considerably worse off. Basically, once I had her stunned in front of the tower, I knew she was dead. Unfortunately, I did have to burn my ult to secure that, but
Where are we going?
Your turret
I
has
still
been
managed to
destroyed.
take her out of the fight.
Enemy killing spree.
Let's find some friends.
And yes, I could have bought an item for my Abyssal there, it's just I was in a rush to get to this tower to try to stop it from being taken.
Okay.
If you're wondering, Abyssal is the next best pickup for Amumu simply because it's going to give you CDR as well as MR production. So by reducing MR, that means Fizz will actually pack more of a punch, Taric will hurt a little bit more, Teemo will, I will. It's just a really, really nice item for our team. The fish got hooked, but Thresh wasn't interested.
Come play with me.
If not for the Scuttle Crab there being taken for the Speed Shrine, we could have tried to bait the enemy into thinking we were doing a Baron. Fortunately, they did have some vision there that we can't get rid of, so oh well.
Come play with me.
Once again, right there, I used my Bandage Toss to get rid of her Banshee. Or I tried to get rid of her Banshee, I guess. Her riposte actually cancel out my Bandage Toss, which is kind of
Your
stupid.
turret has been destroyed.
You can see right there I tried to hit Hecarim, but wasn't fast enough. Or at least the bandages don't travel fast enough, one of those two.
Let's find some friends. Where are
So
we
right here is
going?
one of those quiet moments before the crap hits the fan. And I'm wondering how many of you are on the edge of your seat participation. So you know a team fight's coming.
Come play with me.
So right there, Hecarim ulted, and now I need to get over there to take part. You can see the Taric ult is descending, but not quite fast enough, I guess.
Okay.
And wait for it. I thought she walks over the shroom,
Has been slain.
but someone hit the shroom, but must not have been few. Yeah, she did hit it. I guess her Hex Drinker was still up. So, right there, down she goes. Unfortunately for Vayne, it's not too easy to condemn Lulu. I can just Bandage Toss back on. Had she actually not done anything, they might have survived, but oh well. Let that be a lesson. Now, in case you don't know, Dragon Breath still is a percentage HP damage move. That's why I was okay with tanking some of that, but I couldn't single-handedly tank all of it because it does have a minimum amount of damage that can kill. But instead I can use the opportunity to set up Fizz, you can get a blue buff, and hopefully start gain more kills. And you can see that I'm just a little short. I probably should have looked at taking the Scuttle Crab or something, so instead I'm just going to go take the Gromps and then go get my Abyssal. Not totally sure, but I think they did increase the cost of it. It's still very much worth it, don't get me wrong. It's just a little annoying when you recall with something like 100 gold short. And there we go. So I believe the brand passive detonation happened during the Terracult, but I'm not totally sure on that. I don't know if it does current HP, max HP, or what, so I'm speculating, I'm afraid. So right there, Vayne plays the role of a true pal and dies for Fiora. All things considered, I do think Vayne's a higher value target than Fiora, so I'm okay with taking that. If she wants to be the martyr, that's on her. Now right here, if you notice, I have the Heavy Hands buff from the Gromps. And if you see me going to top lane, I'm pretty sure what you can guess I'm going to be using that buff for.
Come play with me.
An ally has been slain.
And boom.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
It's a little bit of global gold for the team, as well as finally opening up this top lane.
Aww.
Now right here, I wanted to ward that just in case they wanted to make a play while Tarek and Teemo were down. That way we can try to catch them off guard. In reality, taking a Baron is actually a very bad idea for them in the tactical sense. Our team is primarily magic damage with myself, Teemo, and Fizz. If we can catch them in that pit, they are utterly screwed. If you're not familiar, Baron does drop MR with every single attack it makes, so as they tank more and more Baron damage, we'll actually hit them progressively harder. It's very, very undesirable,
Come
trust
play
me.
with me.
So, right there I'm making progress towards my Leandries, and that will be my final item, and it's basically going to allow me to shred anyone who gets in my way. At least the tanky ones, I mean.
Let's find some friends.
Like Hecarim, who has started to transition to a tank if you haven't noticed. And at this point I'm kind of comfortable with how tanky I am, so I'm willing to scout for the team. In the event I am caught, my team should have more than enough time to actually get over to take part in the fight.
Come play with me.
Oh, I should also point out, if you notice, my ult is all the way up to 200 mana now. Sucks. So right here I'm trying to peel for Kate. Right there I did a flash ult since my Bandage Toss wouldn't have been able to connect anyway. I end up killing Vayne. Right there I end up killing Thresh. Pharaoh finally shows up to kill Kate, and here we bag her, but you can see she does not go down without a fight. Unfortunately, she is kind of itemizing to take advantage of our MR team, or AP team I mean, and as such we needed Fizz to deliver the coup de grace. But still, that was an ace on them. With my AoE damage I can clear those, Fizz can clear them pretty easily with Playful Trickster, and as such, free tower pretty much. Now with this, their base is cracked open and we can end them on the next team fight.
Your team has
So Fizz offers up a little bit of bravado there. I call him out. And there we go. So right here, the course of action would have actually been to fully recall, because for some reason Fizz decides to walk over there before recalling. I was under the impression he actually wanted to do this real quick. And in reality, we can't. The good news is, right there I have my whole Leandri's Torment. I'm almost full build. There are no more boot enhancements for me to get, but I can still buy consumable elixirs. But otherwise, we're ready to wrap things up. Like, one of the nice things about this Amumu build is that it's actually pretty budget conscious. Everything is reasonably priced, and as such, you don't have too much trouble hitting full build. Now right here, I'm not sure what Hecarim wanted to do, and as such, he gets caught out and now, unfortunately, Terra does die before his ult finishes, but Fiora's down, and at this point, there's nothing left for them. Bad news is, without my flash or my bandage toss, I don't actually have a way to get up to them like Fizz can use his Urchin Strike, and as such, he gets 2 kills that I can't take part of. So while I may not have a lot of kills here, you can see from my assists that I was still pretty influential in the grand scheme of things. And with Hecarim getting caught out like that, that was enough for us to end the game. Screw the Baron, screw the Elder Dragon, take the win and run. So right here I'm getting in a position to dance on their base, I'm putting the tiers up for style effect, and there we go. So it's time to see those endgame stats. Now, since I already got the chest for the week on Kennen, I can't get it for Amumu, but you can see rank S. Looks like I also got another key fragment. I can't really get enough key fragments to keep up with the number of chests I'm getting, so it's going to be a long time before I do any sort of chain unboxing. But anyway, that's Amumu in the jungle for you guys. I'm the Hero of Light, thanks for watching, and goodbye.